Hey guys, welcome back to the Law Firm Accelerator. Today with me I have Alexandra Lavinsky. She is a family law attorney in sunny Los Angeles. Alexandra, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. It's so great to have you with us.
Thank you. I feel blessed with the opportunity.
Awesome. Alexandra, can you talk a little bit about yourself, your firm, and why did you decide to go into the field of family law?
Yes, absolutely. So I have been on my own since 2013, and prior to that, I worked for someone in family law, and my background is litigation. So for 2 years prior to going into family law, I worked in insurance defense where I learned jury trials and depositions and those things. But I really wanted to be able to make a difference in how I perceived a difference to be with whatever I was going to do in law. So that's why I felt family law really rung that bell for me, because I'm touching people, I'm helping them with the most important things in their lives, which is dividing their money and their children usually. My practice is divorce, child custody, child support, spousal support, division of assets. I do prenups, which are great prenuptial agreements, and people nowadays more and more are getting prenuptial agreements, and I think it's really important for people to understand why, because there's a perception about power and control when it comes to prenuptial agreements, and how at one time they were used to force people into maybe a position that was less than they would get if they actually litigated a matter. But nowadays, as I perceive it, prenuptial agreements allow people to control their lives because they know exactly what's going to happen at the end of the day. When relationships start to break down, that's when financial threats are made and things start to happen. And if you have a prenuptial agreement, it doesn't matter what the threats are, because you have an agreement on how the assets are going to be divided, so all of that stuff doesn't matter. Is that noise on your...
I think that's my pit bull. She's
Okay.
She's supposed to be getting walked and she's running away. Delta, go over there. She's so bad. She's so spoiled. So yeah, so you're right about the prenup. Certainly it's a way to make sure you can control your future.
Exactly. It doesn't have to do with control. I mean, yeah, maybe that is an attempt in some particular cases, but now many homes are two-income homes, right? You might not have the exact same amount of income, but the reality is everybody has something, and you don't have to have it now to protect it. That's another thing that people don't understand. You know, you might be young now and, you know, an investment person, and obviously you're going to have an amazing portfolio at some point. And so you now protect that asset by being separate property, or protect yourself by making sure it's community property, which is the presumption, but at least you don't have to fight about it with a prenup. So I do adoptions, I do all of those different kinds of things. So that's what my practice is.
It sounds like you're very passionate about the field of family law, and especially maybe about getting people to preventing people from making some future mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a perception about people not wanting to go to trial and it costs so much money. But the reality is sometimes trial is much less expensive than all of this monkeying around. Again, I like to litigate. I know how to do it. Strategy is everything. And when I have my first client interview with a client or a prospective client, and I do my free interview because I want them to see me as much as I want to see them. These are very personal issues, and if it's not going to work, I don't want it. Either if our personalities don't work, or they have a very unreasonable expectation, or they have a reason for wanting to do something which I don't think is right. You know, you can hate the other parent, but that doesn't mean the other parent shouldn't be a part of the children's lives, right? So there's very emotional, strong things that come in. For myself, thankfully, I get to pick and choose what cases will work for us, because it's so personal. And that, for me, best happens where no money has been exchanged. I don't want obligations.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. And being able to choose your own clients is certainly very important for a small business owner. Just for your lifestyle, you want to have a certain type of, life. I am very lucky that I'm in a position too. I get to choose my own clients. So who is your ideal client and why?
So, and I was going to say that brings us really closely to the marketing stuff, because how do we get those clients? So no, none of us know how to own a business. We don't learn it in law school, right? So the nervousness of how to get clients is, unless if you are working for insurance companies and you know you're going to be getting hundreds and hundreds of cases, as a business owner, like any other business owner, you're worried about where you're going to get clients from. One of the things that I see all of the time and that people buy into are paying for clients, okay, where they have, we have 5-10 cases in your area, sign up, blah, blah, blah. For family law, that doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? At least for me, because my ideal client is a client who has assets. If this is expensive stuff, usually my divorces with children start at $12,500. I do retainers. I don't do flat fees. Obviously, people get billing statements. So I need clients that can afford me. I don't want someone who falls in love with me, gets the retainer, but can't afford to continue with me, right? That's not good for them either. So I refer them to people who are less expensive that they can afford, who are great, so that they can stick with the same attorney, because that's much better than attorney hopping. So my ideal client is someone who can afford me and who's open to me. Educate you, want you to be a part of the process. I don't want you to sleep at night going, oh my God, why didn't I get the vote, or why did I do this? You need to understand the process. And many people come in and go, I don't know the assets, I don't know this, I don't know that. And my answer to them is, you're going to have a very expensive divorce unless you start understanding what your life is about, right?
Makes
so
sense.
Either you are spending $30,000 a month or you're spending $5,000 a month. I need to be able. So if a client is just really resistant, or a potential client, okay, if you want to be difficult, it's going to be expensive.
So just to jump in there, when we talk about sophisticated clients, what you're talking about, high net worth sophisticated individuals, the best way to market to them is never going to be to buy those leads. And the reason why is because people who would call a generic company are not going to be sophisticated, wealthy individuals. The only type of lawyer a sophisticated, wealthy individual would hire is the one that they have thoroughly researched. And that usually includes multiple touch points, right? That could include a Facebook view. It could include reading several articles on the website. It could include a phone call. It could include, a review from a human, Google reviews, all that. So for you, since you do have this very, very specific target, it's important to go for people who are doing a lot of research. Now, if you were, doing $1,000 uncontested divorces, buying leads might make sense. But obviously, these folks are going to do a lot of research. So it's important to make sure all of your ducks are in a row, from your website to your social media, and I know you mentioned some other techniques that you use to appeal to them. And that's very unusual, actually, even though everybody has access to it. Can you talk a little bit about your AVVO technique?
Yes, definitely. And the reviews are really important. And my people, the website people and everything, they are constantly saying, for example, on AVVO. AVVO is what I call, what is the other? I forgot the name of the website.
The directories. It's the legal directories like Justia, AVVO,
Right,
Find
but
Law.
no, but when you generally go on, anyway, it'll come to me. When you generally go on and search, it brings you to a search network. So AVVO.
Oh, Google My Business Listing.
Yeah. So AVVO avails everyone of the opportunity to look at any California. I think any state license, you have to have an AVVO profile. Whether you develop it or not is up to you, but most people do. I have 42 reviews on my AVVO profile. You don't buy reviews. It's all real. Two of them, I even have two bad reviews. So they're not bad, but they're for, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is it's true to form as to, who this person is. So what it avails you the opportunity of also is to respond to questions that are posed by people in the community. And so you can go and look on AVVO in any area of the law and ask questions. So people ask, how do I file a petition? And so if the phones aren't ringing, so to speak, I go and I respond to 3 questions a day for, 3 or 4 days, and all of a sudden the phone starts ringing. So how does that happen?
Right. So thank you for that. Thank you for that great setup. So AVVO is part of Google's algorithm, right? Google wants to know that you're an expert in a field. Now, expert I put in quotes, of course, because you're an attorney, so you can't call yourself an expert. But Google will consider certain folks experts in certain things. And how do they know that person is an expert? By looking at the websites that they've considered high authority, AVVO being one of them, and looking at the people who are leading on them in the area. So if you are going on AVVO and you're answering questions, Google is going to see you are prominent on this website, and all of your properties from your website, your Google My Business listing, will be higher rated because Google thinks you know what you're doing, which you clearly do. Of course, there will also be the aspect of AVVO will push your profile when you're uniquely using their platform in a way that many other people don't. Now, I'm glad to hear you say that you think a lot of people are building out their AVVO profile. Unfortunately, a lot of people ignore it to their own detriment. This is one of the things that we do. If we're on board something, the first thing we make sure is all of the directors are properly set up. Unfortunately, so many people ignore it. I'm glad you are not. But by participating in these platforms, AVVO is a really good one, but also making sure all your other directors are good, you will continually kind of feed Google that information that you're a knowledgeable person in your field and that it is safe to present any of your properties. And also, your very sophisticated clients are going to check everywhere they can, AVVO, Google, Facebook, everything. And so by having all your ducks in a row, they're going to be like check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark before they hire you. Even if they got you as a referral, they're still going to check you out.
Yeah, and Los Angeles also has an interesting market to the extent that a lot of referrals you want to come from business managers and good financial positions, right? You get in with a business manager and that's a great client source. You get in with a realtor because the first people who want a divorce call are their realtors. What's the value of the house? A lot of times we get locked into networking with our same people, but I'm not generating clients networking with family law people. I would be generating clients going to the criminal bar. So dialing into that is really important for referrals, and looking online and seeing what other bar associations, when they're doing mixers and when they're meeting or Zooming or what that situation is. And another thing is the positions. So my website people, Scorpion, every month they send me a profile that's showing me how many people have gone to my website. I actually can understand it, and it shows, 79 versus 64 last year or whatever it is. So for understanding why I'm paying for this stuff, I'm finding is really important. And that's happened because the dynamic of my firm shifted. I used to, like those clients who don't know what's going on, outsource everything. So, I had a business manager, I had this, I had that, all these people doing all this stuff, and I didn't really know what was going on. And, I do this for other people. Why am I outsourcing it for myself? So once I started, dialing into it, I could make significant changes and see progress.
So when it comes to search engine optimization, what you want to see is month-to-month increase in clicks. And the best way to view those results would be using something called Google Analytics and Google Search Console. Now, that is data provided directly from Google. And when it comes to reports, we are data people. I'm a data person. And if I want to massage a report, I can make it look like anything. So what you want to do is you want to look at the data directly from Google to get the best data. I always recommend that when you're working with an agency, whether it be mine or somebody else's, we don't do any reports other than Google Analytics and Google Search Console. I'm not there to massage anything. I will send you the real data. Always ask your folks for Google Analytics, for Google Search Console, and make sure you're growing year over year, month over month. If you were in a certain point in February 2021 and you're at that same point in February 2024, there is a problem. So be careful with that stuff. Make sure you are seeing your growth, and then you'll be doing good. The other thing you want to make sure that you are doing is that when you are working with even when you're working with an agency that you like and that you're happy with, do ask for audit reports from other agencies. You're probably getting contacted. Now, it doesn't mean you have to buy it. It doesn't mean you have to go for it, but hearing them out is a lot of times useful. You will at least learn something, especially if you're the kind of person that does a lot of trials. You're probably very good at reading people, and you can use those skills, to talk to marketing companies and get a lot of information. My favorite clients are criminal and personal injury because they can read, they can read all of us very quickly. So they know when we're being for real and when we're,
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So you use some SEO. It sounds like you're doing great on AVVO. And what other marketing techniques would you say are working really well for you right now?
So there's, so many professional websites that you can go to and post little articles. So I find that to be, again, I'm trying to get in people's minds, whether they're getting divorced or they're going to pass my name to someone, because really the yes, the research is getting done by the referral source, but they're asking someone, they're reaching out, for a couple of names to begin with. A lot of them, that's where, so that's important to get in there. But writing articles wherever I have the opportunity, I do. I could write more. I mean, that's for sure. And and I'm encouraged to do so and put that on my website, because I'm told that will generate bringing people to the website, like AdWords.
So yes, you are setting yourself up as, again, quotation marks, expert, specialist in the field of family law, specific family law aspects. By adding content to your website, if it's properly promoted by creating what we call backlinks, which are, anybody links back to your website, it's like a vote of confidence, right? So if you can get, for instance, backlink from the LA Times, that would be huge. That's a hard one. But you can get backlinks from smaller websites. By doing that, you're telling Google, this big website or the smaller website with a good reputation trusts me. And so when you do that and you have good content, Google will kind of increase your ranking. And you will also have a chance to get those views from folks who are doing their research, which is going to be a lot of your clients.
Yeah.
Certainly writing on your own website and writing on guest posts is super helpful. We can create content, but we cannot create the kind of content you can create, because we're not practicing attorneys, whereas you are seeing the cases, you are seeing the case law, you have your own experience. The stuff you're going to write is going to be very unique, and Google is always going to give you a little bit of extra credit, or a lot of extra credit in many cases, because they understand that this is unique content that's not to be found anywhere in the web, right? And Google is a machine. It's designed to provide most helpful content possible. So unique often will equal, helpful.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't finish my thought about the reviews. So, but it's difficult in family law to get reviews, because even though you can either do it anonymously or whatever it is, people just don't want to. And you also, it's kind of like, but you really want them. You're like, I did a really good job for you and I really want it, but you can't ask because it's just kind of not appropriate. And I mean, I have my support staff in a letter when I give them their final dissolution or whatever it is when the case is over. like in this letter, it says if you wish to leave a review. And I know that Google reviews are really important right now, so that's the first thing I give them that they can click on and leave a review. But as I find as I climb, higher in the kind of cases, people are much less. I haven't had a review in a long time, and it's not because I'm not kicking ass. It's because
it's very hard in the field
because reviews are great.
Yeah, so reviews are very, very important. When it comes to your Google My Business profile, about 80% of the success of the algorithm is reviews, which means you have to have as many or more reviews than your competitors to be seen in the Google Business profile. With family law, very hard to get reviews. Criminal law, the same. One tip I could give you is when you do a free consultation for somebody and they're not becoming your client, but you gave them helpful advice, ask for a review. And this is actually a technique I use as well because, everybody wants SEO advice, but I only work with lawyers. So if you're a doctor and I give you SEO advice, I'm going to ask you to leave me a review. If you are, owner of a local plumbing supply and you ask me for advice, I'll give you a review. And I bet you give out advice all the time. Parties, at dinners,
at the courthouse.
Ask everybody, any professional interaction, whether that be with another lawyer, with a clerk, with a paralegal of a different firm, any professional interaction is fair game for reviews. They do not have to be your paid client in order to leave you a Google review. So that could be helpful with the algorithm as well.
Definitely.
Do you have any other kind of special techniques that you use, would you say? You mentioned you do a lot of networking.
Yes, I do a lot of networking, and I try to network outside of, my normal stuff, but the normal family law stuff. It's hard. It's hard to go to these events alone, not know anyone, so if you can buddy up with someone, but I like to go and leave. So, I don't like to suck someone in and then I'm out in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But that, the in-person stuff is really important. So another thing, which sounds so obvious, but I do find it, and this is something I kind of learned from my old boss who always sent Christmas cards. And I'm actually sending Christmas cards, actual physical ones, with an update note about what Lavinsky Law has done the last year. And I'm sending it to all of my clients because, ones from years ago that don't have any business, but to remind them. That's why you do it, to remind them, So I always send a nice gift to a referral, source, something like that. But this is like a general reminder. But along those lines is having an easy one is the Facebook one. Right? So for every holiday, Lavinsky Law, which is blah, 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 blah. And it's amazing. I'm like, oh my God, that person from Philadelphia liked my Facebook post. And it reminds them because, you never know when someone, and a lot of times people call and it's not the right kind of law, but it doesn't matter. The fact is this person remembered you and you give a good referral and it'll come back around. So years ago, and I did a campaign with Facebook, and it was when people's profile changed from married to single, or divorced or separated.
I love it. That is brilliant.
But it wasn't successful for whatever reason. It was expensive.
No, but it's great.
But I always thought that was super clever. I'm like, so, do those kinds of marketing campaigns work, or are they just, catchy stuff?
It depends. Sometimes. But what we do is we A/B test things, right? We split things. And sometimes we will try things for several months and then we know it doesn't work.
Yeah.
The nice thing about working, nice thing about being in a field where I only work with lawyers is that I have, dozen divorce lawyers. And so I can try something for one client and then I can kind of learn from that, right? And usually it'll be that client's idea. Like one client came to me and was like, I want a calculator for child support. And so we designed it and it works amazing, and obviously that's his calculator, but now we're going through and we're doing other kinds of calculators for other folks, for criminal and for, and so things like that, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. You don't know until you try it.
So
But I like your
that
Christmas card
working
idea. I think that's brilliant.
with my IT people, they want to talk to me all the time. I'm like, I'm the worst. But when I do need them, like if I feel as though the clients are dropping or I always say the phone's not ringing, I call them and they're like, okay, and AVVO too, like you kick them another, $1,000 and they change this and they do that. And, you can't, I don't think my perspective is you can't spend all money on everything, but
Right.
you also can't hold the purse so tight that the people who are trying to help you, their hands are tied. Sometimes and they'll explain it to you. Look, let's try it in a different region. Well, let's try to get you from number 5 to number 2. And whatever it is. And if you're always saying no, then you're not going to change. But if you're willing to, and you have to think about it like, okay, if I'm $4.50 an hour, 2 hours of my time is 1,000. Not, oh my God, they want 1,000, right? If I
Right.
get one client, I've made the money back,
Yeah, yeah. Having
right?
an open mind is very important. So funny. I sometimes find when I look through websites, I do client research, and once in a while I'll find a website that's hacked or has major issues, and I'll write to the owners. I'll be like, listen, your website is hacked. Like, I'm a real person. You should know about this. I never hear anything back because their mind is so closed that they're completely ignoring me. Even though if you just Google my name, you can see I'm an expert.
And
And
then
it's
yeah,
like,
but they'll respond. They'll let someone who says they're from Microsoft onto their computer. You know,
all the
it's
time, yeah.
unbelievable.
All the time, yeah. Yeah, people have like weird, like, if you ever get like an email from anybody and they say like your website is hacked, Google that person. See if they're a real person. Because like you have to Google my name and you'll see like all this stuff that I do and be like, oh, okay, maybe this is real.
Exactly.
But yeah, the bottom line is you have to have an open mind because you don't know what you don't know. And listening, sometimes it might not be worth your time, but look, you can always just hang up the phone if you're like, listen, this person is full of it. Just feel like I gotta
Well,
help.
and what I learned, because I've worked, and one day I'll be older too. But what I've seen in people is they weren't changing. So family law attorneys are notoriously kind of stiff. I mean, there's an older generation of male attorneys, and they're wonderful. Figure working, from this through the 70s all the way on in this kind of area of the law that was perceived to be female, but not that there were females. And working in Los Angeles has availed me of the opportunity to work with these women that literally created this amazing field as a female attorney. But when the internet came and all of that stuff, it was difficult for these older people to shift in that dynamic. My old boss, up until I started my own business in 2013, he still was in the yellow pages. And he represented all high profile people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
like amazing, not that, but he was in those, so,
You
you
gotta
have to
evolve.
be willing kind of to shift and it's uncomfortable, but you have to trust the people you're working with. That's why you're working with them.
Yeah, you have to allow yourself to be uncomfortable once in a while. If you're not, then you're not growing, right? Which
Right.
smoothly brings us to the topic of what do you envision, what do you see as the future of family law in California? Where are the trends? Where are you guys going?
What concerns me about the future, the biggest concern I have, is that the state bar is considering allowing non-lawyers to practice law, basically to give them a provisional
Wow.
license. And the family law field is already full of the opportunity to act poorly and steal from people because they
Yeah.
know nothing about the area. For example, somebody comes in a case in which it's very contentious. They may not know what assets there are, but they own a home, right? And so the attorney may say, okay, I'll take the case on a lien, meaning I'm going to put a lien on your house and I will take the case. You don't have to pay me up front, right? Well, 2 years later, who does that house belong to? The attorney.
Yeah.
The attorney.
Yeah, that's so
you
shady.
know, right. And so that dynamic already exists with lawyers. And it really worries and concerns me that you bring in non-lawyers who will be able to transact and litigate without the ability to do it. And I mean, I don't understand it. So that's very,
so
very
iffy.
worrisome to me.
Will these people have to have some kind of background? Is that the argument, that they will have something? But
That they
no.
have something.
Wow.
But
It just
they're not lawyers.
seems like the wrong way to go. You know, in my industry,
Terrible.
I'm completely unregulated, and there's so many agencies out there who, you know, don't do the best jobs. Let's put it that way.
And it's particular to family law.
Yeah. That's well, and you know what? Also, personal injury law, I feel like, has a lot of lawyers who are, you know, sort of on the iffy side
For
as well.
sure, but in family law, it's the quick money up front and the
Yeah.
lack of understanding of these quick things. So someone, you know, is hit with a restraining order. They haven't seen their kids. Someone tells
Yeah.
them, pay me $5,000. I'll show up at the hearing for the DV. They get
Oof.
$5,000. Nothing is signed. They show up at the hearing. The attorney never shows up. You know, the judge doesn't believe them, that nobody's filed a sub of attorney. They didn't know they were supposed to file a sub of attorney. I mean, it's a mess, and nothing is done. But
Yeah, and it's going to be the people who can least afford it getting taken advantage of. Your clients are not going to hire these people. It's going to be, you know, people who are really struggling. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, wow, that's going to be a mess.
Exactly. So that worries me. But other than that, I mean, the beauty of family law is, while the world shifts, the existence of assets doesn't. So we're always going to have that issue, short of those who do get the prenups and the postnups. And I do think the trend is with that, because I think the younger generations are seeing the value, not only because their parents have gone through horrible, terrible divorces, but because they both have assets they want to protect. Now, that doesn't mean, a prenup doesn't mean you can't build a community together. It only means that this agreement says if you will, and what will happen. And if you get inheritance, a lot of in-laws want to protect that inheritance. And while the state of California already protects it as separate property, unless you drop it into community property, a bank account, the parents that are leaving their assets want to make sure through a prenup that they are separate. So that's
that makes a lot
another
of sense.
area.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I work with the state as well, and that stuff gets complicated too.
So
You need several layers of protection
who is
there.
a good referral source for me? Probate attorneys, you know, because, and so again, reaching out, going online and finding every area of law has, you know, the different kinds of communication in that field, right? And a lot of time, even large law firms has, you know, if someone needs a divorce attorney, they'll ask, does anyone know of a good divorce attorney? So getting in with people who have access to other people.
Makes a lot of sense. So what's next for your law practice, Alexandra? Where are you looking to go?
Well, just continue to grow and build it.
Are you looking to hire more people, or are you happy with being a one lawyer firm?
Now. One of the difficult things I would say about, it's not difficult, one of the beauties, I'll go with the positive, is people want me, right? So when they hire me, they want me because they've either had an experience in some other law firm where they've hired the firm and then all of a sudden they're trickled down to the worst associate ever. So when I had associates, people would come in and the first question is like, you're not going to give me to an associate, are you? And you're like, you know, and I don't want to lie to people and do things like that. So, and that's fine. You got to listen to your people, your client base, right? Again, it may not be comfortable. You may have imagined it differently, but if that's what it is, I like to do the writing. Me having an associate isn't as helpful as what I do, which is I have 3 paralegals. And I
Mm,
don't bill for my paralegals. And family law is intensive with the clients. But the
mm-hmm.
clients need to have someone to talk to. They can't always bill every time they need to sneeze. Sometimes they just need to vent or make sure. And that's what my paralegals do. They've been doing this longer than I've been alive. So they might, someone might say, is this normal? Is this, whatever it is. They might even ask about me, because they've built really, and I only have one paralegal per case. So I don't have the juggling. You're always going to get Jill because Jill is your person. And these cases go on 2 years. I just got a call from someone I haven't talked to in 7 years.
Wow.
But that's because now they're either remarried or they want to refer someone.
Yeah.
And if you're
So,
good to people, they'll be good to you. That's the best marketing.
mhm.
And that's why I give referrals. I don't just dump people. I really try to help people. My people try to help people. A
So
good
one of the,
intake system is another
mm,
important thing. A
mm-hmm.
little trick. Because I can't spend all that time talking to all these people. So I have my people, talk to the person, find out, if it's going to work financially, let them know so that they don't drop in here and drop off the chair. And it's a waste of time for both of us. I
Mm-hmm.
make it easy. I like Zoom. I like phone. I'll do whatever they want. And I make it easy to pay.
Right. So one of the things when it comes to the whole, is it going to be the owner of the firm or an associate I deal with, that's a branding thing. So if you ever decide, and it sounds like you are in a good place, so you may never wish to do it, but just so you know, should you ever want to do it and expand to where you have associates, doing at least some of the work, one of the most important things is to make sure that associate or that partner, junior partner, if that may be the case, is well represented online, right? It's to make them prominent on the website. It is to make sure that they have their own well-optimized AVVO account. And then people will come to them, but it's to have them mentioned in Google reviews. And I have family law attorneys who've grown by as much as 5 associates in 1 year, which is quite extensive. And the way he did it is we have to make sure we mention that person on the website. We have directories built out for them. So people will adapt to the fact that they may be dealing with somebody besides you, but only if you prepare them. And of course, if they know upfront, not, if they're coming looking for you, then that's a different story. But especially, if you decided to retire in, let's say, 20 years, it can be helpful to have other folks in your firm who could take over the firm, because then, that firm has value, has sales value. So that's something,
Definitely.
that's far off in the future for you, but it's always good to think about that stuff.
Definitely. I thought I was retired.
Alexandra, thank you so much.
I consider myself partially retired, but it's important. I mean, that's the thing is for me, I love litigating. I don't love sitting in my office chair, but they
Mm,
need me to be here.
yeah.
I have little things that make me stay alive. Like after court, I don't have to come back to the office. I can do things. I can feel like I have more. But I also, I don't have my own children, so that helps also for me because
Mm.
I see people doing both, and it's
It's a
amazing.
lot. It's a lot. Alexandra, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Do you
Thank
have
you.
any last words of wisdom for family law attorneys out there?
the for all of us attorneys, we all need to be a little bit more kind and less right to each other. I know it's a big important thing to the bar, and I'm guilty of it, but I'm really trying. So, and I think there's something to be said for giving other attorneys grace because not everyone's
Mhm.
having a great day. But yeah, so that's what I have to say. And
That's beautiful.
being a good attorney is being a good person. And that means when in the courthouse, if someone asks you, where's the jury room or where's this or how to read a calendar or being respectful so that, we retain the respect that we want. And we can only do that if we're good to other people. It's important. It's important to me. And it's
That's
certainly
beautiful.
important to the judges.
And to the clients.
It's important to the clients, but one of the things, again, with having strong boundaries is explaining to them that the court doesn't want to see me acting like an animal, right? And so while you may want me to be an animal, and I'll be an animal outside of court, right? But it's telling if, and at that first meeting, if that's not gonna fly, and they're like, I want blood, and I don't care about the judge, it's like, all right, this isn't ideal. So,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
That's
Thank you for the
beautiful.
opportunity.
Thank you so much. Stick
Okay.
around so we can finish up the upload.